too pretty to fight. I got in this for the money. I don't want to fight anyone that's going to mess up my hair or try to damage this face. It's just not gonna happen. So if you want to call me a cherry picker, you just basically know I'm the best cherry picker out there, and that's my goal. Okay, so you can just go and F yourself. 35-1. I knocked everybody out. I lost the fight, and it's just time to retire. I lost a 12-round decision. 12-round split decision. It's time to retire. Don't tell me what Muhammad Ali did, what Sugar Ray Leonard and none of them. You don't understand the emotion. I lost the fight. It's not supposed to happen. It's time to retire. Gotta go.
Hey, dude, I'm not even a boxer. I'm a skateboarder and a YouTuber and a surfer, but I play a lot of Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty, and I think my style is like I'm just like really bossa nova, and I think I could just take who's the dude right now? I don't know, but I think I could just beat all of those guys, cause I don't know, I think I'm that guy, and I just rule. YouTubers rule. We're the new generation of fighters. We're just bossa nova.
I tell you this, you boys are lucky that we never crossed paths. If we would have fought back in my day, I would have beat the natural shit out of yous. Every last one of yous. What's going on? What's wrong with these boys nowadays? Let me tell you this. In my day, if it was Jack Johnson or Joe Louis or Jersey Joe Walcott, Jack Dempsey, we fought. We didn't duck and dodge nobody. What these young boys doing? These whippersnappers doing? Dodging and ducking and not fighting for undisputed? You don't do that. Well, I didn't know Aries was that good. I thought I could beat him. It was a mistake, but I gotta live with that. It's first round. Ain't no excuses. He's the better man. I didn't know. But I know now. I got no problems with that man. But I thought I could beat him. And I called out Aries, and, it was a big mistake. Shouldn't have done that, but, I got to live with that, and you live, you learn.
What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So, I want to talk about the 147 division. There's a video surfacing saying that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford will finally fight at 154 pounds. Now, I didn't watch the video, but in reference to the video and comments that other people were making on other channels about that same situation, whether it came from that video, there's actually a couple of videos speaking about this. I don't like to talk about rumors, so let me just say it this way. If there's any truth to that, on one hand, people could say, well, at least these two can finally say they got it on. On the other hand, I don't understand why people would be applauding this. One thing is, if you're having trouble making weight and you go up to another weight class, I don't think that it's wise or safe for a fighter to, drain themselves, to continue to drain themselves to stay at one weight class, because a lot of fighters do that. They outgrow the weight, but they continue to fight. Maybe there's certain fights there that they want, or maybe they just feel that, I don't know. Maybe they don't feel as comfortable going up in weight. Who knows? But regardless, as far as these two are concerned, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, let me say this. I like them both as fighters. And I don't ever care personally. I never feel any kind of way of who wins and lose a fight. So for me, it's like whatever happens, happens. But I want to tune in and see a great fight. But it never gets to me personally. So that being said, again, it's very easy for Aries to say the things that I say, whereas other people don't get it because they're fans and fanboys. So they're on the whole side of let's point the finger and find someone to blame. I don't even care anymore about whose fault it is or who's avoiding who or what. I don't even care. Because truthfully, boxing has been infested with that for the longest. And it's like nobody's trying to do things to make it better. So, here's my thing. If these guys, just imagine if they said, hey, let's wait until neither one of us have belts anymore and we're in a different weight class to finally fight. Wouldn't that be stupid? Now, me asking the question like that, I'm pretty sure you're thinking, yeah, that'll be stupid. Well, that's what you guys are applauding if you're sitting here clapping your hands that they may finally fight even if it's at 154. Well, it's not the same thing as if like a Ryan Garcia or a Teofimo fought, if they ever plan on fighting each other at 140. Why neither one of them have titles? And there was never the hype or the prestige behind those two fighting each other like Errol Spence versus Crawford. Why would you not want to fight each other for undisputed? Why would you, just for the sake of saying we finally got these two to fight, but it's not for undisputed. It's not for any title. It's just at a different weight class for bragging rights. Yeah, it's a legacy fight, but how stupid could you be? So my thing with these two is they see that there's some fighters in that division now that, I guess we got to put Conor Ben on ice right now. But if you look at, Virgil Ortiz, you look at Jaron Boots Enis, each one of these guys, Terence Crawford, he's affiliated with Shakur Stevens, so he'll have a ton of things to say about him and how great he is, right? Errol Spence is affiliated with, Tank Davis. He'll have a ton of great things to say about him. So you don't think that either one of those guys, they can look at any other talent, anybody else that's, part of their little stable. You don't think that when they look at Jaron Boots Enis, they know this guy is capable of actually beating us? He's on that level. Of course. You heard Errol Spence in an interview say, Tank got the kind of power he can knock anybody out. Right, he observed that, right? And what's Tank's weight? He fights at 135. Tank Davis said that he think his power will carry up to a good, strong cruiserweight. Okay? Well, if you can observe all of that, there's no way that you can't look at someone in your own division who is a possible opponent and not realize that this guy is good enough to go in there and, if not beat you, at least give you a run for your money. Now, I'm telling you right now, you guys been rocking with me from day one. You know that Errol Spence, whoever he goes against, I'm pulling for Errol Spence. But let's be real. Jaron Boots Enis is on that level. And I have no problem admitting the truth. See, it takes an ignorant mind to be biased and speak like because you want a guy to win, he's automatically going to win. If you guys know what it feels like, Errol Spence definitely knows what it feels like. He was that guy at one point. Nobody even wanted to say Errol Spence's name. These guys didn't want to fight Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. They didn't want to fight Errol Spence until they started to see, weaknesses in his game, or what they thought was weaknesses in his game. It wasn't until then. And then it was, oh, okay, you know what? I see something I could exploit. But before that, and I think it was the Kell Brook fight, is when everybody started to, oh, yeah, you know what? If you watch, Kell Brook was outboxing him, and Kell Brook did this and that. Well, you know what? Those fights finally happened, but it was only after they thought they saw something that they could exploit in him. Now, that being said, let's fast forward to now where Jaron Boots Enis is that guy where, when they sit up and say, oh, he has to build his name up, or, he's not ready yet. Terrence Crawford was being interviewed, and he was asked about fighting Virgil Ortiz or Jaron Boots Enis, and he said, oh, of course I'd fight him. And he said their names just never came up in the past. No, their names came up. And even after that interview, their names came up, and he still has an indirect way of trying to dismiss both fighters. So my whole thing is, when Errol Spence was walking around here saying he just want his chance, want his shot, when Terrence Crawford was walking around saying he just want his chance, want his shot, these guys don't want to fight me, well, you guys know what it feels like. So how could you go to 154 without fighting Boots Enis and feel good about that? And you can't say it's just about fighting people from your generation, especially when you want to continue to fight. Now, that would only make sense if you felt like, well, it's Keith Thurman, it's Terrence Crawford, or it's Keith Thurman, it's Errol Spence, then I'm retiring. But if you go to 154, well, I don't see Errol Spence fighting Jermell Charlo unless they stop being cool. I don't see Terrence Crawford getting a shot right away. And so, at the end of the day, you're not going to fight each other. Okay? And then, on top of this, let's look at another lie that was promised to us. When it was known that Terrence Crawford was going to fight against David Avanesyan, remember what we heard? It was some other up-and-coming prospect that we heard that Errol Spence was supposed to be fighting. Now, we know he had a car accident a little while after that, but then that was dismissed, and what was we told? Errol Spence was fighting Keith Thurman, that it was mandated. This is why I say I don't know where these stories come from, and this is why I get so uninspired by boxing, because it's just such a freaking soap opera now that it's just a turnoff as a stand-up alpha male to see this diva stuff going on. It just turns me off. It's cringeworthy, and it just rubs me the wrong way, where it's like I don't feel like talking about these things. Well, what's the story with Keith Thurman? And I'll just say this about Keith Thurman, since we're talking about him right now. For a guy who used to call himself the king of the division, for a guy who disappears and stays out of the ring so much, he says the same thing every single interview. He says the same thing after every so-called comeback fight. You haven't seen the best Keith Thurman yet. Excuse me. The man is only getting older. When are we going to see this best version of Keith Thurman? And then every time he comes back, what happens? What does a fighter say when they've been out of the ring long and they don't look as sharp as they wanted to? Well, it was some ring rust. Well, wouldn't that tell you, common sense kick in and say, hey, man, you need to be more active. You need to be in this ring fighting and stop taking these long hiatuses out the ring. Keith Thurman has been silent in terms of what he's doing. And the weird thing about it is every time you see Keith Thurman on an interview, 98% of the times he's in a damn gym. You really can say 99% of the time he's always in a damn gym. I don't know if he's injury prone, if he's getting hurt. I don't know what's going on. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm writing Keith Thurman off, because Keith Thurman is doing absolutely nothing. He came back against a guy that basically, came up after fighting Gervonta Tank Davis after being knocked out and went the distance with Keith. And, of course, but it was ring rust. He wasn't in the ring. Well, listen, regardless to that, that was his last fight, and that's been a while now. And I don't think nobody even cares if Spence and Keith Thurman fight now. I don't think nobody even cares if Crawford and Keith Thurman fight now. So you see the effect that it has on you when you've been promised something for so long and it never happens. And then all of a sudden, we're all supposed to care simply because why? It's boxing? No, when fighters jump in the ring because it benefits them or their money's running low, whatever, anything other than the thrill of competition, well, we don't sit and analyze all that most of the time, right? We just want to see the fight. We don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. We only know what people want us to know, right? So they get in front of the cameras and tell you one thing, but then something completely different happens. So I'll say, for a guy like Jaron Ennis, who's being clearly, he's shown his skills. And people that, every time Jaron Ennis has a step-up fight, he destroys the guy. And they all say, this is going to be his toughest fight to date. This is going to be a good fight. This guy has experience, blah, blah, blah. And Jaron Ennis beats the brakes off of him. Guess what? For a guy like Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, they know what it's like to be in that position. So if they can go up to 154 and not fight him and feel good about themselves, so be it. But at the end of the day, when they go to 154, that's the case. And then they get railed, they get kind of pushed back. Well, I can see Errol Spence fighting Tony Harrison, even Terrence Crawford fighting the Tony Harrison, because Jermell Charlo is not going to jump in there with Terrence Crawford because he doesn't feel like he deserves it. And I believe in his mind he really thinks he'll beat Terrence Crawford. Okay? It's yet to be seen, but we know the friendship between him and Errol Spence. So it's one of these things where people want to play eeny, meeny, miny. No, not fighting you. For Jaron Ennis, he's calling these guys out, and he's hungry and he's ready. See, the problem with boxing is they groom you to see things a certain way. So you go from making $100,000 a fight to 200 to 250 to 300,000 to $1 million to 2.5 million. The older you get, the less you fight. These guys, and I've said it again, I'll say it, I'll continue to say it. These fighters are not going to fight 3, 4, 5 times a year, especially when they have not been doing this even in their 20s. These guys are not going to get to mid, late 30s and start fighting more. It's not going to happen. So when you don't see these fights happen, but you want to see these fights happen, and there's really no real explanation as to why, well, they'll tell you it's because of promotions. They'll tell you it's because of this side. Well, I'm ready. I agree to the terms. I don't know. It's always something. So I'll just say it this way. For anyone who truly wants to see great fights, you pay your hard-earned money to order a pay-per-view or to go to the fight. It's all good. But I want you guys to understand something. And I'll say it again, okay? Fighters, this is their job. They all want money, as they should. This is how they eat. The problem is people get sucked into the entertainment side and all the big talking. These guys, they want to make you think they're fearless and that they'll fight anyone, and that if the fight doesn't happen, it's not their fault, and they all have the same claim. But the reality is this. Fighters are advised. What do you think their team is for? Just to make sure that everything's going good in the gym? Hey, listen, I know you want to fight this guy, but you don't need this fight. You fight this guy right here. This is $2.5 million, which is still good money. But guess what? A fight with this guy, $10 million. What do you think that guy's going to do? And a lot of people who know that they'll never be in that position will say, oh, well, if it's me, I go for legacy. No, you'd be stupid to turn down $10 million for 2.5. You would be a complete moron. Now, if you go and fight for that 10 million, then you come back and give that title defense to that guy that you know or feel is a tougher opponent, but lesser known, like Jaron Ennis, well, then that's all beautiful. But the point is, they start getting this ego. You got to understand, no matter how much you like these fighters, most of them are more likely assholes, because they get to a point where they start thinking their shit don't stink. They start looking at how much money they make. They're in a different tax bracket. They have mansions now. They have all these cars, right? That the average person, average type job person, okay? I don't like to say average people because we're all humans and nobody's better than the next person, okay? So, but what I'm saying is stuff that their fans can afford. People that don't like them can't afford. And that's what they start to spit at you. You know, man, please, you watching me. I'm not watching you, right? I'm making millions of dollars. You don't know what it's like. So, and I can tell you something. I've seen guys in the gym. I've seen guys who need help getting in and out of bed for 2 weeks. I've seen guys go in the back and piss blood out. So, I mean, we know fighting through injury. I know what it feels like. And I can tell you, when these guys are talking, it's to get the interest built up. But it's best to say less if you don't know for sure that what you're saying is going to surface. I don't care about how tough you talk on Instagram or Twitter. My whole thing is, if these fighters really want to get in here and make the fights happen, well, maybe so much has changed behind the scenes that we just don't know, right? Because you always hear the fighters say, at the end of the day, your promoters work for you. If you really want the fight, you can make it happen. And then the same fighters saying that end up in situations where something's going on their side that the fights aren't happening. So, I'm just saying, overall, to sum this up, I think that Jaron Ennis deserves to be in a position to fight a guy like Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. And if anything, they'll probably go and revive, Adonis Ugas and throw him in there. Let's see what he can do with him. And trust me, if that happens after he destroys Ugas, Spence or Crawford is not going to fight him. And at the end of the day, it's like, you get to a certain age, even though you still can perform, it's a point where you start putting your exit strategy together. And that's what a lot of times happens, and the fighter's not going to be honest and say that, but that's what's going on. Now, I don't know for sure that that's what's happening with Crawford and Spence, but I'm saying when that happens, you as a fan don't think about that. But can you think of any legit reason that Jaron Ennis doesn't deserve a shot? And if you open your mouth to say, but what has he proven? Well, what did David Avanesyan prove? So according to Terrence Crawford, he got $10 million to fight that guy. You mean to tell me that this BLK Prime, I saw Zab Judah's face, so I know he's affiliated with them. Blue Blood is affiliated with them. You mean to tell me they wouldn't try to reach out to a Jaron Boots Enis and say, hey, man, listen, since Crawford and Spencer's not getting it on, how about you and Crawford? We trying to put this together, trying to get this money so y'all can get out here and make this headline. Bottom line, David Avanesyan wasn't deserving of that fight. I'm not going to knock the man for trying to get his money, but I knew he had an ass kicking coming to him. He knew it. And you mean to tell me he deserves a shot, but Jaron Boots Enis or Virgil Ortiz don't? So this is one of the things about fighters that I don't respect, is when they sit up here and try to make it seem like people That's their rivals. That's right now in their generation that they should be fighting. There's no enthusiasm. No big deal. I don't need him. But then they go fight a much lesser fighter and give that fighter all the credit in the world. He's a tough competitor. You know, I got to be ready. I can't take him lightly. But then try to make it seem as though it's no big deal they fight each other, whether it's for undisputed or not. And when you treat an undisputed fight like it's just another fight, why would we give a damn to even care to watch you guys fight each other? So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. But I mean, and it's just weird because you hear Rolly Romero constantly running his mouth saying how him, Teofimo, and Ryan Garcia all are going to fight, but at 147. Don't make you think, well, if he's saying this and neither one of those guys are denying what he's saying, well, then maybe that's what they're planning as far as each other goes. At the end of the day, Ryan Garcia did a lot of talk about Tank Davis, right? He said all this stuff and then basically said that he's going to 140. Has he fought at 140 yet? Has he been campaigning at 140? You see? So the fight with him and Gervonta Tank Davis never happened. And I believe now, looking at it, it's probably more a thing of him saying he's going to 140. And I don't think he really wanted to fight Tank. Tank said he think Ryan really want to fight. Ryan saying he thinks Tank really want to fight. Now Tank is saying Ryan is scared and all of this stuff. And it's like, maybe Ryan wanted Tank to say, you know what? I'm not at 140. Let's fight at a catch weight. Let's do, anything to try to get the advantage, because Ryan is naturally a lot taller and probably can put more weight on than Tank, because Tank is so damn short. But either way, another fight that didn't happen. So when these guys are 34, 35 years old, and even for just say, let's say between 33 and 36 years old, and these guys are sitting there talking about, I want to fight 3-4 times a year. I want to do this. I want to do that. People, it's just talk. We still haven't seen the best version of them yet. Even though they've been in this sport over a decade, there's nothing that's happening in boxing that's motivating right now. There's a card tonight. If anything, I'll give my thoughts about what happens, the aftermath, and we'll see how things go. But boxing sucks right now, and it's really not motivating, and it's a damn shame, because it's like, it's clear. It's just about the money. Legacy means nothing. You can't expect the fighter to not think like that when that's all the promoters care about. They don't know a damn thing about fighting, but they know about money. They know about numbers, okay? They're about revenue. And if they don't think a fight will sell, they don't care. So here's why I'm saying this BLK Prime. Look at all these up-and-coming hungry lions that's being overlooked. Why are they not reaching out to them? Because looking at the Crawford and fight, and looking at the Broner fight, it's like, let's take one guy that's well known, and then let's take some flash in the pan guy and throw him in there with them. In favor of the guy that we pull in that we want to really win. That's the way it looked. I mean, you can't tell me that Adrian Broner fighting Red Cash is a fight that you want to see. If anything, the most I could hear is somebody saying, oh, I'm just happy to see AB back in the ring. Just saying. Nobody cared about Avanesyan. You look at every fight that was happening, people still making mentions, regardless, whether it's off praise or whether it's off of bias, hatred, ignorance, whatever. They're still talking about Clarissa Shields. They're still talking about Alicia Baumgardner and talking about Mayer. They're still talking about those fights. Nobody's talking about no damn Terrence Crawford versus David Avanesyan. This, people, it's just more of the same going on. And I just wanted to touch on that, and I just think, enough said. Talk to me in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.